Thank you to Mubi for sponsoring this video. If we are to try and unlock the humour of the Coen brothers, we'd find the first clue scribbled on a shabby piece of paper in the Hudsucker proxy. Can you see it? OK, then let us investigate further. This cyclical contour is the design for a visionary child's toy.
You know, for kids.
This cynical world dismissed Norville Barnes as a raving nincompoop.
You know, for kids.
That is, until these young nippers, wide-eyed and with a spring in their step, saw the hula hoop in action. How poignant, right? This dingus is the perfect metaphor for understanding humour. A joke, even if crafted by adults, is childlike in its invention.
You know, for kids.
Now, if we were to ask you what technique made the hula hoop setup work, what would you reply?
It's,
The answer, of course, is repetition.
you know, for kids.
The dingus is quite simple, really. It operates on the same principles that keeps the Earth spinning around the sun and that keeps you from flying off the Earth into the cold reaches of space where you would die like a miserable swine. What?
In this programme, we'll be addressing how the brothers Coen, Joel and Ethan, construct humour through repetition. You've already seen the basic variation. When a repetition is visible, it is called the visual. It can be a character's body part, a part of a body seen through someone else's body parts, or two bodies apart coming together.
Come.
1, 2, 3. Damn, here we go again.
A repetition can also come out of somebody's body part.
Johnson?
This is referred to as the oral.
I'll suck your cock for $1,000.
Heavens to Betsy, Birdie!
No, not oral, oral.
You know, for kids.
It's customary for characters to be summarized by redundant phrases, which are uttered ad nauseum throughout their time on the screen.
So what have I done?
I haven't done anything.
Yes. We haven't done anything, and...
Repetition creates verbal motifs that are approximately the character's catchphrase.
Fucker. He's a fucker. Both fuckers.
Give me that fucker.
Am I wrong?
Well,
Am I wrong?
yeah, but I wasn't...
Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
We gon' nail yo. I'm gon' nail your ass. Yo, I'm gon' nail your ass. Yo.
Are we still on track? There's visual and oral.
Buddy, say buddy.
Now, let's combine the two.
My name is Chet.
This technique is cited as Dapper Dan's paradigm. An oral repetition, a character's vanity in this instance, can have its ultimate punchline expressed visually.
How's my hair?
My hair.
Dapper Dan. I'm a Dapper Dan man.
Now, this stew can be spiced up by the inspired work of sound designers. Let's say a character gets up, runs across a table, crashes through a window, and plummets to his death. Then Earth continues to spin, time marches on, until we get a similar setup with just a slight twist. See if you can catch it.
And I'm ruined.
The Old Switcheroo. That's where you expect one thing, but get something unexpected. Like when a character is at work on what appears to be a highly classified contraption, that is, before we get a stiff reveal.
Oh my God.
We hope you're sitting down for this next technique. The Kirshner principle.
Are you familiar with Kirshner?
Kirshner does not apply.
Bring this to trial, we'll see if Kirshner applies.
What's Kirshner?
Please.
Kirshner is when you give emphasis to a word,
Kirshner was in Kentucky.
Kirshner was in Kentucky?
Kirshner was in Kentucky.
Until there's a left turn.
All right, Freddie, forget Kirshner.
Then there's a gap.
Primary residence, 30% of remaining assets.
And what's the punchline?
What are you, nuts? Have you forgotten Kirshner?
It's that chasm, the proverbial slot.
You mean vagina?
This space creates suspense. It's the extended time that makes the punchline effective.
Welcome to the Hotel Earl.
This principle can be expanded. In this example, the letter and its colour are mentioned quite frequently.
It's a blue letter! Is that a blue letter?
Much like suspense in a horror picture, this interval serves to create tension.
If we had an appointment.
This we call the delirious capper. The punchline to this technique was a scream, but there are other ways to cap it off. In this scene, the setup is the same.
Yeah.
Papa, Papa, I got the prize from the scissor. Papa, Papa, I got the prize from the scissor.
Yeah.
Then there's a gap
Of course, then there's no
Papa, Papa.
before the punchline.
Shut up!
It's a technique called the Kirshner principle. If you're feeling confused right now, fear not. We're simply trying to illustrate a specific repetition known as the Perplexing Paradox. Yes, that's the... Oh, sorry, it's suddenly become gibberish to me. Perplexion. No, that's a real word. This is when you repeat a word so often, and with enough variations, that it becomes perplexing.
Have you sat before her before? Before her before, or before she sat before? Before her before. I said before her before. No, you said before she sat before. Well, I did it first. Look.
Those are homonyms, wreaking havoc on comprehension.
But not before.
That's homonyms, not to be confused with chinomons.
Woo? Yeah.
Apologies, synonyms. That's the preferred nomenclature.
Micturated upon in this fair city.
Piss on your rug.
I'll ask you again. Did I urinate on your rug?
No, like I said, woo, or peed on my rug.
Mir sir, my sir? Mir, så meise, sir. Very uncertain.
Let's not get lost in translation, because when we do, we engage in what the French like to call le croissant.
I am the concierge of Les Pantalons Rouges at Bad Gadesburg in the canton of Uri.
This is the repetition of expressions in multiple languages.
And she was a guest of the red trousers.
In plain English, though,
Yeah?
a word
Yeah.
or a phrase, mundane at first,
Keeps doing that.
What's going on?
can take on a higher meaning over time.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? The uncertainty principle. It proves we can't ever really know what's going on.
In this broadcast, we've learned that comic repetition can be visual and oral, that the two can be combined. We saw how a few seconds or a few minutes can be used to build a joke, and how confusion can confuse. But as we reach the conclusion, we'd like to come full circle and tell you the meaning of everything, and the bits in between.
What do you mean, buddy?
Much like a hula hoop, a man's life can loop. This theme was first established in the Coen's debut comedy, Raising Arizona, where a number of repetitions illuminate the lead character H.I.'s self-destructive cycle of wild criminality.
That name is called recidivism.
Repeat offender.
See, that's meaningful.
But, buddy...
What about Walter Sobchak's insistent mentions of his service in Vietnam?
Chase, I'm sorry, buddy.
Smokey, this is not Nam. Not Nam. There's one thing I learned in Nam.
Is he right to overreact to a minor infraction?
Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
Are we wrong to find humor in the painful trauma he lives with?
But, buddy...
Then there's Larry Gopnik. He's not one to cause a stir, yet life keeps throwing obstacles in his path.
That's right, I haven't done anything.
Should we be amused by his desperate search for meaningfulness? Of course, these are all questions, and we promised answers. Does the final clue lie with a wise old rabbi?
And you should see the senior rabbi as well, by all means. Or even Marshak.
Marshak.
He's quite busy, but maybe...
When Larry finally sees him in the flesh, we get an elongated space. And what's the cosmic punchline?
The rabbi is busy.
This technique we call the Kirshner principle.
It sounds like you don't know anything. Why even tell me the story?
First I should tell you, then I should.
Hi everyone, I know this video was a little different to what I usually do, so I'm going to say a few more things about it in just a minute, but first I want to talk about the video's sponsor. Mubi is a unique streaming platform that always has a wonderfully diverse range of films to choose from. It's great to see they're currently showing Paul Schrader's underrated 90s gem, Light Sleeper. Like Schrader's most celebrated creation, Taxi Driver, the film's also about a lonely outcast, and I think it's one of the best films he's directed. I'd also recommend Wild Reeds, from Andrei Téchiné, a post-New Wave French director who's not nearly celebrated enough. There's only ever 30 films to choose from. Every day there's a new film, and then every day they take one away. Whenever I use their service, I always see something I'm excited to check out. So, head over to Mubi.com/thediscardedimage for your 30-day extended free trial. So first I want to thank my collaborators on this. There's Luís Azevedo, I think is the pronunciation. He runs the channel Beyond the Frame, but more recently he's been doing freelance work for places like Little White Lies and Mubi. Luís edited the video, but also helped me out with the writing process, so you can follow him on Twitter if you want to keep up to date with everything he does. The actor who did the narration, that's Stephen Chance, who has popped up in shows like The Crown, but more humbly, he was a stormtrooper in the pilot for an original series I have on the channel. We're actually casting for the second episode right now and planning to shoot this summer. This video itself is also the pilot for a series we have in mind that's going to have a similar tone and approach. So if you want to help us make more, then support me on Patreon. I still also have a limited amount of VIP passes available from Mubi for new Patreon supporters. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.